Hi, I'm Amanda. So I believe in transformation. What does that mean? I believe that any of us can transform our world if we really want it. So how do we do that? We have to figure out what we're passionate about, and then we have to figure out what is our purpose. How can we be useful to other people? And if you can align those two things, that's the magic. And I think you can do it at any age. You can do it at my age. You can do it at your age. But guess where it begins? Not out here. It begins right here. We have to start our transformation journey within ourselves. So I'm going to tell you a story. A couple years ago, my youngest daughter invited me to go to surf camp with her. I'm very athletic. I love the water. But this was a little bit more than I expected. So for any of you who have not surfed before, you are attached to the board at your ankle with a leash. And it's pretty hard to get out over that break. You have to really push the board, especially if you're not very tall. And then once you get out over the break, you have to figure out how to get up on the board and how to balance. I did that pretty well. But the fearful thing about surfing is when you fall, and you're going to fall off the board, that board is coming right back at you. And that's what our surf instructor said. And he said, oh, here's the thing. You need to put your arms like this to protect your head from getting hit. And I thought, oh, I don't want to do any sport that I have to protect my head. So hold on to that story because it's going to come back in a little while. So for 35 years, I was a television reporter. And I was a breaking news reporter. I covered crime. And I joke, but it's the truth. My hair was on fire. And that's how I lived every single day of my life. My calls, my texts started at 6:45 in the morning. They went up to midnight. They were weekends, they were nights, early mornings, overnights. And I had to be a quick study and be on the air at noon every single day with something I knew nothing about, that I had to learn about within about 2 hours. And then I'd be on at 4, 5, 6, sometimes 7. So I didn't have any time to triage. I had no space to think about what I was doing and what I really wanted to be doing, what I cared about. I basically had to treat everything like an emergency. I had no time to triage. Then I started yoga. And yoga gave me a different perspective. So I felt like my nervous system and my brain were reset by going into a dark room and stretching, which for years I said, no way, no way. I'm an adrenaline junkie. I'm not doing this. But all of a sudden, I realized that I had this space. I had this 1 hour of time where I wasn't thinking about work, where I wasn't thinking about my grocery list, where I was actually thinking about myself, my own thoughts. What did I want to do? Who did I want to be? How did I want to transform the world? What's my purpose? What's my passion? One of the things they say in yoga is you can change on and off your mat. And I really leaned into that. So where do we get our ideas about change from, about transformation? We get them from how we are born, our nature, and then we get them from how we are raised, our nurture. So to give you an example of my nature, when I was your age, a little bit younger, I had a huge calendar on the wall. This is way before digital calendars. And I had a Sharpie pen. And I would write all my assignments, whether they were papers or exams. And I would say to my parents, pre-internet, I have to go to the library. I have to work on this report. And my mom would look at the calendar and say, it's not due for 2 months. So basically, I was born that way. That's my nature. I was type A. My parents were lawyers, and they worked all the time. And so my home was also modeled to be that hair on fire, type A environment. So I got it from both places. In 2023, I had a friend who said he was getting ready to retire, and I said, why? I mean, you have such a great job. You're doing so well. He said, you know what? I'm on a boat. I feel like I'm on a boat, and I can see the shore. And I have 3 meals a day, and I'm warm, and I'm comfortable, and I'm safe, and I have these great people around me. And he goes, but for some reason, all I can do is think about jumping off the boat and swimming. So last year, I decided to jump off the boat and swim because I said, you know what? If not now, when? I need to do something different. Jane Fonda was in a podcast not long ago that I listened to. Obviously, famous actor, activist, fitness guru. And she told a story about how when she was just about to turn 60, and she was living in this beautiful ranch out west, and she was married, and she was obviously powerful, wealthy, had achieved fame. And she said she woke up one morning and looked out at this beautiful setting and said, I'm not done yet. And those words have resonated for me more in the last year than just about anything else since I left my day job. So I started a passion project, which is called Ageless. And what is ageless? Well, ageless means that you're never too old or too young to transform, to try something new. So if somebody tells you, you don't have enough life experience, you're not there yet, you're not ready for this, I challenge you, do it anyway. Do it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? Okay, so you fail. You make a mistake, and then you pick yourself up and you learn from it, and you try something else. So I believe the same exists for people in midlife. When people say, you're done. You've done everything. You don't need to do anything else. You don't need to prove anything. But the reality is that people with life experience and wisdom have a lot to offer, right? They've done things that have taught them things that help them, that can help their organization, that can help a company, whatever it is. They have a lot to offer. So at a time when people may feel unseen, may feel like they don't have another chapter, I believe they absolutely do. So that's what my podcast, Ageless, is about. I interview women specifically who share their journey, share their transformation journey. And a lot of it is career, but a lot of it is personal. Because when you've lived on this earth a certain amount of time, you've experienced loss, you've experienced hardship, you've experienced trauma, you've experienced so many things that you can use that wisdom to share with others. So one of my biggest mentors was my mom. In 2012, she was diagnosed with a brain tumor called glioblastoma, and I became her primary caregiver. She was amazing. She was beautiful, she was smart, she was kind, she was funny, she was hardworking. And I really believe that we, as women and all people, we stand on the shoulders, right, of the generation before us. So I gleaned so much wisdom from my mom. And she stood on the shoulders of her mom and her mother-in-law and the other women that came before her. And so I've really tried to now be that person who can give that wisdom to the next generation. I love mentoring young people, especially young women, and sharing what I know, because if we all share what we know, the next generation is going to have a leg up because we're giving them that gift of knowledge. So one of the things my mom said when I was caring for her was, don't do what I did. What does that mean, Mom? She said, don't work yourself to death. Don't do it. She was 71 years old. She was an attorney. She was still working 60, 70 hours a week because that was her nurture, right? That was who she was. But the reality is, we have no idea how much time we have. And she said, do things that you love, be with people that you love, surround yourself with people that you love. It took me a long time to live into that. That was 12 years ago. And I'm just now living into that. Better late than never. So here are my beliefs about what we need to do to not only transform ourselves, but transform the world around us. Number one, We have to be okay with being uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. Change is hard. Change is scary. So this picture at the top is my daughter who just climbed a mountain with her college club in Patagonia in Chile. And before she went, we talked about all the things that might be uncomfortable. You're going to be cold. You might be wet, and she was. It rained the first day, the whole day. You might be sore. She carried a 50-pound pack. You might be tired. You might not get along every single day with every single person in your group. You might be hungry. There's so many things that cause us discomfort, right? But it's about how we get through those things that allow us to transform and change. And when she came back, I said, what was it like? She said it was life-changing. She said it was life-changing, the trip. The number 2 rule is be okay with not being the best. I really believe that we need to try things and fail to learn. I grew up going to a school that had just gone co-ed, and so in order for them to have teams, sports teams for the girls, everybody had to play. I mean, I was horrible at these sports. Lacrosse, field hockey, soccer. I filled a lot of water bottles. I did a lot of scorekeeping. I got a lot of extra effort awards. So I didn't think I had the ability to do anything athletically. But when I got older, I said, you know what, I want to try things. I want to try things. And so I did a marathon, which was a huge undertaking for me. I'm one and done, to be clear, one and done. I tried biking, swimming, hiking. Some of those things I still do. But part of being able to do the things that we're not going to be the best at, ever maybe, is to quiet the negative voices that tell us we can't do it. And so I believe strongly that if we can quiet the negative voices, we're going to be able to open our world to do so many more things. So remember the story about surfing and about how you put your arms. So when I started yoga, there was a pose where you would put your arms like this. It's called ragdoll. I'm not going to do the whole thing for you. And then when you laid on the ground in Shavasana at the very end, you would also put your arms like this sometimes as a comfort pose. And I thought, where do I recognize that pose from? And then I remembered it was from that surf camp. And I thought, this is so interesting. That pose, which was scary to me, which meant the board's coming back to hit me in the head, now means something completely different. It means peace. It means comfort. And so now what I believe is that maybe transformation and change aren't necessarily about doing the big thing, making the huge change in our lives. Maybe it's about looking at things differently. It's about how we view things, how we see things. So if we can change our interpretation of something, that's real change. So now I wake up in the middle of the night with my arms like this. And I don't think about a surfboard coming to hit me in the head. I think about how peaceful that is. This is one of my favorite quotes by Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I think it really embodies taking your purpose and your passion and marrying them. The purpose of life is not to be happy. It is to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have it make some difference that you have lived and lived well. Find the purpose, find the passion. That equals magic. Thank you.